My dad kicked me out of Christmas for drama, so I cut off my brother's mortgage cash. I saw a family photo with my decorations and my ex, showed up anyway, and ended the money in front of everyone. But then a stranger knocked and exposed what my ex did. If this story pulled you in, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. My dad didn't even try to sugarcoat it. He just said, "You always bring drama. Just skip Christmas this year." That was it. "No, we'll miss you." "No, maybe next time." Just a clean dismissal, like I was an annoying coworker who constantly brought store-bought cookies to potlucks. I don't even remember what started the argument. Probably something stupid like the table setting or how I said no to hosting again. But this time he made it clear. I was out. I didn't argue. I said okay and hung up, but it sat heavy like a cinder block on my chest while I scrolled through Netflix trying to act like it was just another day. The truth was, I was sitting alone in my apartment on Christmas Eve with the tree I hadn't even bothered to decorate fully this year, sipping boxed wine and pretending I liked the quiet. No texts, no calls, just me and my cat Louie, who clearly also sensed the vibe was off. But what set everything in motion was that damn group photo. It popped up around 6:15 p.m. on my cousin Jenna's Instagram. Everyone was there smiling, laughing in front of my decorations. Not just similar ones, my actual decorations. The garland I made with my own hands 3 years ago. The velvet stockings I had custom embroidered because Mom insisted we needed a classy look. Even the gold star I fought over with my brother during a Target run because he said it was too glam for our tree. All of it. But that wasn't even the worst part. There he was, my ex, standing next to my brother, holding a glass of wine like he'd never ghosted me on a random Tuesday 6 months ago, after we'd spent nearly 2 years together. I stared at the screen, blinked, and checked the username again. It was real. I sat in silence for a few seconds, then stood up slowly, tossed the blanket off my legs, grabbed my keys, and left. I didn't call. I didn't text. I just got in the car. It was snowing lightly when I pulled into my parents' neighborhood. I parked down the street, partly because the driveway was packed and partly because I didn't want anyone to see me coming. I stared at the house for a long minute, lights glowing warmly through the windows, laughter faint through the walls, and then I walked up and rang the bell. When the door opened, the noise inside died immediately. I walked in anyway. You could hear a pin drop. A few wine glasses were midair. My aunt had her hand halfway to her mouth. My dad just stared. I cleared my throat and said it, "Merry Christmas. I'm glad you're all having fun. But just a heads up, starting January, I won't be covering Matt's mortgage anymore. Since I'm the dramatic one, I figured you'd all prefer less of me in your lives. So, this is me stepping back." Matt's face dropped like a rock. My mom started to say something, but I kept going. "Hope you guys figure it out." "Really? I'm done." And with that, I turned and walked straight into the living room and sat down on the couch like I belonged there, because I did. They just hadn't realized it yet. Nobody moved for a solid 30 seconds. I could hear the wind picking up outside. That eerie hush right before a storm, and inside wasn't much different. My brother Matt looked like he'd just been smacked in the face with a snow shovel. My dad stood rigid near the fireplace, jaw locked, but he didn't say a word. And my mom, she blinked again, then did what she always does when she's caught off guard, tried to smooth it all over with a smile and some fake warmth. "Oh, Michelle, don't be ridiculous. It's Christmas." That was her opening line. I didn't respond, just crossed my legs and reached for one of the sugar cookies I recognized because I had baked them last year and frozen the extras. Apparently, not even my baked goods were off limits. Matt recovered first. "You're seriously cutting me off? Just like that?" I tilted my head. "You're 34 and make more than I do. I think you'll survive. Or, I don't know, maybe you could ask Dad. He seems to have plenty of energy for people who aren't me." The tension cracked. My cousin coughed. My uncle suddenly found his wine glass very interesting. And then out of nowhere, he spoke. My ex, Evan. "Maybe she's right," he said. "You all act like she's the problem, but Michelle's the only one who ever shows up for people." That one landed hard. Evan had barely looked at me when I walked in, but now his voice carried across the room like a sledgehammer. My mom looked at him like he'd grown a second head. My dad's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me." Evan didn't flinch. "I mean it. I shouldn't even be here. I was invited by Matt. Didn't even know she wasn't coming until I got here. And seeing all this now, I feel like an idiot for thinking this was a good idea. It was surreal. I hadn't spoken to Evan since July. He'd left one of his hoodies at my place and just stopped replying. No big fight, no closure, just silence. And now he was standing there calling out my family in a room full of people wearing matching pajamas. My mom tried to interrupt to shift the focus, but the room had already turned. Jenna stepped forward quietly and said she was leaving. Her boyfriend followed. My aunt went into the kitchen muttering something about needing more ice. The crowd began to thin. People didn't know what to say, so they said nothing. Just sat there and waited. Eventually my dad walked over, stood behind the couch. Didn't sit. You made your point. I turned to face him. Oh, I'm just getting started. My dad didn't say a word. He just stood there behind the couch, arms crossed, staring like I was a puzzle he didn't have time to solve. Then he turned and walked away without looking back, like I hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of their perfectly curated Christmas scene. Evan stayed seated, hands folded, quiet, but still next to me. He hadn't moved since backing me up, and honestly, that said more than any speech he could have made. The fact that he didn't run out the door like the others, that was new, and it didn't go unnoticed. There were only about 10 people left now, the cousins who always stayed out of drama, my uncle who probably thought this was the best entertainment he'd seen in years, and my mother who was now pacing near the kitchen like she could tidy the tension out of the air. I stood up and walked to the fireplace, took one of the sugar cookies off the tray, ones I baked last Christmas, and apparently had been frozen and served without a word, and then picked up the framed family photo resting on the mantel. The same photo they pulled out every year. I held it up. You want to know why I stopped coming around as much? Why I said no to hosting this year? Why I didn't text or check in like I used to? No one answered, but their faces did enough talking. My mom froze. Matt leaned back in his chair. My dad was conveniently still in the hallway because every single time I show up, it turns into this unspoken list of what I'm supposed to do. Fix the issue, pay the bill, smooth the fight, be the responsible one. For years, I've been bailing all of you out in ways you don't even bother to acknowledge. I walked into the middle of the room. 13 months of Matt's mortgage gone because he lost his job and didn't want to tell anyone. Who stepped in? Me. And who kept the secret for over a year? Me. When Uncle Rick broke the bathroom sink, who paid for the plumber? Me. The Airbnb on Thanksgiving when our cousin trashed it? Me. Every emergency, every missing piece, every quiet favor? Me. Matt tried to cut in with something about doing his best and just needing a little more time. I turned toward him and didn't blink. Then sell your Jeep or stop taking those weekends in Palm Springs. I don't owe you anything, Matt. Not anymore. That hit him. His face turned a color I'd never seen before. Somewhere between anger and shame. And now this. I was told to skip Christmas, that I bring drama. So I stayed home. And while I sat in my apartment alone eating grocery store pasta and ignoring holiday ads, you all had a party with my decorations, my ex, and not a single person thought to call. My mom finally spoke. Michelle, we didn't think you'd want to come after the fight. It wasn't personal. I almost laughed. Not personal. You used my stuff, invited my ex, and threw a party in a house I helped renovate, and I wasn't even worth a phone call. I turned to the rest of them. You didn't just forget me. You replaced me, like it was easy, like I never mattered. The room was dead silent again. No, I'm stepping back officially. No more mortgage payments, no more bills, no more pretending everything's fine so everyone else feels comfortable. You can call that drama, or you can call it boundaries. Either way, I'm done. Then I turned and walked toward the front door. Evan stood for a second. I thought he was going to let me go, but instead he said something so quietly, I barely caught it. Wait, Michelle, I'm coming with you. Everyone turned when Evan said he was coming with me. Even I froze for a second. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was simple, but it cut straight through the room. My mom blinked at him like she'd misheard. Matt muttered something under his breath. My dad stepped back into the doorway just in time to witness the shift. And for once he didn't have a single comment ready. But before I could say anything to Evan, something unexpected happened. The front door swung open. Cold air blasted in, and standing there was my neighbor from 2 doors down, Rachel, holding a wrapped casserole, like she'd wandered into the wrong universe. He stared at the stunned room, then at me. Thank God, she said. I thought you got into a car accident. You left your apartment door unlocked and your lights were on. Louis was sitting on the counter like he'd staged a rebellion. The room blinked in confusion. I blinked in confusion. Rachel wasn't supposed to be part of this story at all. Yet here she was holding a spinach casserole wearing fuzzy boots, completely oblivious to the fact that she just walked into a family meltdown of historic proportions. Matt whispered, Who is that? I answered, My neighbor. She checks on Louis sometimes. What? Rachel stepped inside, shutting the door with her hip because her hands were full. Also, Michelle, the guy parked outside your building was asking around for you. Said he needed to talk. Looked pretty upset. Everyone stared at her, then at me, then back at her. He shrugged. I brought the casserole because I figured you were having a bad night. Didn't realize I was walking into a live episode. Evan looked at me sharply. Who is the guy? I have no idea. None. And for a split second, the entire drama in this living room paused, because apparently there was someone else looking for me tonight. My mom tried to reclaim control. Michelle, this is getting ridiculous. What now? I ignored her. I turned to Rachel. What did he look like? Dark jacket. Knew your name. Said he needed a minute with you and that he'd wait around. She paused. Honestly, he looked worried. Not creepy worried. Meal worried. My stomach tightened. I glanced at Evan, who looked like he was trying to solve a puzzle faster than his brain could keep up. Before anyone else could speak, something else happened. Knock, knock, knock. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Everyone stared at the front door like it might explode. My dad moved first and opened it, and standing on the porch was the last person I expected to see that night. The one Evan had fought with after our breakup. The one who once told Evan I was too much work. He stepped inside without waiting to be invited. Michelle, he said calmly. I've been looking for you for hours. We need to talk. Evan stood up straighter. Andrew, what the hell are you doing here? Andrew didn't look at him. He looked at me. Michelle, you need to know something about what happened this summer. Something Evan didn't tell you. And just like that, the room full of family drama suddenly felt too small for the way the air shifted. I felt the ground tilt under me because Evan looked terrified. I stared at Andrew like he just spoke in a language no one else knew. The entire room was dead still. Not a single person moved. Even my mother, who usually has an opinion ready for everything, looked genuinely confused for once. Evan looked like he wanted to say something, anything, but no words came out. His jaw clenched. His hands balled into fists. Andrew didn't wait for permission. Look, I shouldn't even be doing this here, he said, glancing around. But you've been blamed for things that weren't yours to carry, Michelle. And my brother hasn't exactly been honest about why he ghosted you. Evan stepped forward. Andrew, stop. Andrew ignored him. Remember that work trip Evan took to San Diego back in July? That was supposed to be the beginning of your engagement plans. He told me everything. The ring, the plan, the dinner reservation. I stared at Evan, who still hadn't said a word. Andrew continued, but then while he was down there, he ran into his ex. They got drinks. One thing led to another. I begged him to come clean, but instead he broke it off with you by disappearing. No explanation, just silence. He was too much of a coward to tell you he messed up. The weight of those words didn't land immediately. It was like I was watching someone else's life fall apart in slow motion. Evan finally spoke. It wasn't like that, but he didn't deny it. My mom muttered, "Oh my God." And suddenly, it wasn't just my family's fake warmth that stung. It was the fact that I had walked into this house thinking Evan had matured, that maybe he saw me now. And here he was exposed in front of everyone, still hiding the ugliest parts of why we'd ended. You let me believe I was the problem. That I'd been too intense, too demanding, too dramatic. He opened his mouth again, but I cut him off. Save it. I gave you more chances than I gave anyone. You could have told me the truth months ago, but you didn't. Andrew shifted, clearly uncomfortable, but he hadn't lied. I turned toward the door, this time for real. Rachel, I said, you still have that casserole? She blinked. Yeah, great. Let's go. Wait, my dad said. Michelle, hold on. I turned back slowly. You've made it pretty clear I don't belong here. But now what? Because I cut off your precious son's mortgage pipeline. Suddenly, I'm worth chasing. My mom spoke then, voice higher than usual. That's not true. We were just stressed. The holidays are hard. We didn't mean to push you away, but the room told a different story. Even the remaining guests could feel it. That quiet truth. Everyone always tries to dance around, but never names. They liked me best when I was useful. Not loved, not respected, just useful. And now that I'd finally stopped playing that role, they were scrambling. So, I laid it out. You don't get to treat me like a burden until you need something. You don't get to tell me I bring drama, and then copy my decorations, serve my cookies, and invite my ex. And you especially don't get to pretend to love me when the money stops. They didn't argue. They just stood there in silence, too shocked to push back. Evan looked devastated. But I couldn't deal with him anymore. Not now. Maybe not ever. Rachel followed me out, still holding the casserole like it was the one solid thing, in a night made of smoke and mirrors. But as I opened the door to leave, Matt called out, Sweet. I'm sorry. I paused, hand on the doorknob. He looked serious, tired, even not like someone trying to fix things for show. His thraw, you were always the strong one. I didn't know how much I leaned on that until now. I nodded, but I didn't smile. I left it at that and I walked out the door. The cold hit hard when we stepped outside, and for once I welcomed it. Rachel walked beside me in silence, the casserole still tucked in her arms like it was some kind of comfort object. We didn't say anything until we got to her car. You sure you're okay? She asked. Oh, but I will be. We drove back to my place. She stayed long enough for us to eat some of the casserole and for Louise to make a dramatic reappearance from under the bed. When she left, she hugged me without making it a thing. That alone felt more genuine than anything that had happened at my parents' house in the last 3 years. Later that night, just as I was about to turn off my phone, it buzzed. A text from Evan. I'm sorry, I was scared. I still am, but I've changed. If you ever want to talk, I'll be around. No pressure. I stared at it for a long time, then put my phone down and went to bed. The next day, I woke up to 5 missed calls from my mom, 2 texts from my dad, and a long rambling email from Matt apologizing again. He said he'd figure it out with the mortgage. He said he understood, but the kicker? My parents asked if I could come by for dinner that weekend. Just me. No expectations. No pressure. Just a dog, right? I showed up the next evening, but I didn't come with gifts or cookies or anything to soften what I was about to say. I walked in, sat down at the table, and told them calmly, I forgive you, but I don't want to go back to how things were. I don't want phone calls when you need something. I don't want invitations that come with strings. I don't want fake apologies or sudden affection when you think you're about to lose me. I'll be in your life, but on my terms. My mom looked like she was about to cry, but for once, she didn't interrupt. My dad gave a small nod, like he was finally understanding. This wasn't about drama. It was about respect. Something they'd never given me freely. We ate dinner quietly, respectfully. It was awkward, but it was honest. The next week, I texted Evan. Nothing dramatic, just a simple message. If you want to talk, let's talk. But it has to be honest this time. All of it. He replied almost instantly. He showed up the next evening, and this time he didn't come with excuses. He told me everything. What happened, what scared him, how he froze and didn't know how to make it right. How he had spent months thinking about what he'd lost. And for the first time since everything blew up, I believed him. We talked for 3 hours. No yelling, no drama, just truth. I'm not saying we magically got back together that night. We didn't, but something shifted. He wasn't the same man who walked out 6 months ago. And I wasn't the same woman who let people take pieces of her because she didn't want to make waves. We're taking it slow. We meet for coffee. We talk more. We're trying. As for my family, they've stopped asking for favors. They send texts without hidden meanings. They're trying to hide how long it'll last, but I'm not carrying the weight for all of them anymore. This Christmas, I'll be spending it how I want. Maybe with Evan. Maybe on a beach. Definitely not alone, and definitely not pretending everything's fine just to keep other people comfortable.